Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne, a place where we have conscious conversations about things that really matter in our lives. And now here's your host, Roxanne Derhaj.
Hi everyone, it's Roxanne Derhaj of Authentic Living with Roxanne. Thanks so much for tuning in again this week. So today I have two special guests and they are in Mexico. I'm in Canada and I'm thinking I'd like to be in Mexico. I find out they're in central Mexico. I've not been where they are, but I've been to Acapulco. I've gone all over Mexico and I know I won't be getting there anytime soon, which is the sad part. So my special guests are Valerie Jennings and Johnna Londen, and they have pretty interesting business backgrounds. Valerie's got BA in communications and over 25 years in administrative and computer fields, and Johnna has an associate's degree in computer networking. They founded Virtual Assistants in 2010. The word virtual is something that if it wasn't in your vocabulary before business, in the last 3 weeks, everybody is talking about virtual, and everybody is on Zoom overload. I don't know if you've heard that term, and burnout, including me. And so we're going to talk a lot about, virtual assistants and services, but their newly found business and their partners is online business gurus. And their mission is to show startup businesses who want to go online, right? And at the time we booked this, none of this had gone down yet. That's the thing. I just want everybody to know that at the time we booked this, none of this was going on. And then what a timely space for us to get together to be able to book, to talk about going online. So they teach how to build and manage, in their teams, how to install systems in their businesses, marketing products, services and businesses that could create a strong foundation they need to build for success. So you are probably in super high demand right now, I would think.
We're getting more and more demand now. I think a lot of people were in that initial freeze stage when this all happened. But I think people are now getting into a comfortableness, into a little bit more, they're a little bit more surety. The stimulus packages, of course, are helping and that type of stuff. So people, I think, can see a light at the end of the tunnel and that panic part is gone. So people now are starting to realize that this is going to be a little while and they're going to have to start planning and starting to move in the direction.
So really the fear element, I'm going to call it the deer in the headlights because, most of us got, sideswiped and didn't know kind of how to deal with it. That's kind of starting to wear off and you're starting to see people kind of saying, okay, now that we know that we don't know when things are going to trickle off, let's just kind of start to refocus, go out of fear mode into, okay, what do we have to do to at least minimally focus still on our business goals and try to recoup or continue to build that foundation. Maybe if we aren't going to see some growth into Q2 and Q3, what can we kind of actualize to get to Q4? Would you say
exactly
that's what's happening?
Most definitely. You're starting to see people now that are loosening up and realizing they need to get back to work, and they're going to have to start bringing in money and bringing into sales, and now it's just a matter of, okay, now how do we do this?
So Johnna, tell us a little bit about, some people are being forced into the space and they're doing it. People are starting to do it and get more comfortable. What are some of the basic things that people have to think about? Now, I've been working, 50% of my business virtual and then 50 was in person. But people that have never worked virtually, what are some of the things that they need to start to think about because now they are virtual?
Well, when you're working virtual, it's a little different in the aspect. And when you go into an office and you sit down, you have a calendar, you have a planner, you have things that you've got in place so that you keep your projects in line. When you're doing it online, of course, you can have those things in your office, but there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about out there that are, especially if you work virtual and you're more than a one-person team. Obviously, you're not sitting in the office with your secretary or your admin assistant anymore. Now you're doing it all like we are now. You're talking through video, your emails, phone calls. So there are some things out there that will make your life a little easier. There's a couple of really nice free versions of their basically online project managers. One of them is Asana, and the other one is Teamwork. They're both free for basic users. So that's your average startup user. And it basically allows them to put in the project, put in a description of what needs to be done, and then you can assign those specific tasks out to the people that need to handle them. Even a single entrepreneur may find that useful for them because it will send you reminders. Hey, you said you needed to do this today. Or, hey, you said you needed to do that today. Or we're waiting on this, or you're still trying to finish this. And it just helps you keep things in your head. When you get on the computer, sometimes you get kind of lost and time just kind of gets away from you. And if you've got something there that says, hey, these things need to still be done, or we're still working on this, it just kind of keeps you focused so that you learn time management and you learn your best working way from working online and working at home, because not everybody is the same. So everybody needs to find their niche in working from home. Like you guys have said, this is not going to be happening where we're all going to go back to everything is normal tomorrow. So you need to find your niche and get comfortable with being able to work online without panic mode.
So when I think of, okay, I'm going to tell you when I went online. This is going to date me. I was a corporate executive, and back in 2002, my company, that was of course in Canada, maybe it was already happening in some of the bigger hubs in the US, they had just started to kind of, I'm going to say, put their toe in the water to try virtual. And I was one of the first waves of executives to go virtual. I'm telling you, I did it poorly at best. Because I would go into corporate. So this is an example. I would go into corporate after my system was set up in Toronto. I'm in Niagara Falls, which, but nobody told me how to do it. And I would, because I was missing all that connection. So I would go to corporate, and this is no word of a lie. I remember I'd go up into the board meeting, and then there's this big thing on, one of those, it looks like a hovercraft sitting in the middle. And then there's maybe one person moderating, and I go and I sit in there as one of the executives. And somebody said to me, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm here for the meeting." And they go, "Well, there's no need for you to be here." Because everybody, even though they were in the building, had quite literally taken it to the point where, well, I don't need to be in the boardroom. And that was a kind of a bit of a rude awakening, because I'm a connector. I'm an extrovert. I like to see people, all that stuff. So that was my struggle. And then I went, whoa, this is real. So that's going to be something that I think a lot of people, to your point, Johnna, that people are going to struggle with a bit.
Well, the beauty of this is now there is Zoom. So imagine you back 20 years ago when you could at least been able to see people around a table. Absolutely. Or been doing this type of thing. That would have helped. We always, Johnna and I are both military brats. So we joke, how when when my father was off to war and her father was off in the Vietnam War, you wouldn't see our fathers or talk to our fathers for, nearly 6 months, wow. And today kids have got Skype and they have Zoom and they have all these other tools where they can see their parents. Right, and God forbid, should someone go into labor while they're gone, they can actually bring the phone or the item into the delivery room, and the father can actually see their child born, which is an entirely different thing. So there are ways to stay, for those extroverts, I'm one of those as well, that likes to talk and be people and everything else. There are ways to still connect without touching people, but you could still get the face-to-face contact. You could still get the bounce off, the emotions off of people, and a lot easier than in those old days where all it was a telephone.
I know. And like I said, because I had this assistant, but her and I kept missing because, I was so accustomed to okay, let's sit and talk. And then of course we would get busy, we would get distracted. You know, you're talking about these tools, which, you know, at that time, these tools didn't exist. Had they existed, it would have really helped us, you know, to be able to track things. So, so let's talk a little bit about some of these tracking tools and how they can actually help project managers. So I'm thinking, let's say I had a team that maybe there were some issues around how they work together. Well, how could these tools help? You know, I always say that ultimately you have to deal if there's disconnections or people aren't following through. But there's the tools like Asana, and I'm not sure, I'm forgetting this.
Teamwork. The only reason I mention those is because they're very inexpensive on their paid versions, but they have free versions, which are basic. And basically, I mean, even in your brick and mortar everyday office, you're going to have those people that have to work with each other, but they're not going to be the best of friends.
Right.
Online project managers do take some of that stress off because you can assign certain pieces of a project to a particular person. You can assign that person a particular due date for that, but you can make those where only that person can see their piece. So say you're working on a project and Jill needs to do this piece, and then Joe needs to finish up the piece that after Jill is completed. Now, Joe doesn't need to know that he's waiting on Jill, and Jill doesn't need to know Joe's waiting on them, because you can assign pieces of those projects that are only visible to the person that needs to have those projects. And like I said, you can assign due dates. You can make them private. So if there's one particular person, then you've got a private project and you only need a particular team member, you can make it private. There's a lot of really nice ways to use those to manage your team online and not have to play referee for the daycare center when they decide that they don't like each other.
So when they're throwing sand at each other in the sandbox, you can take the scoops out of their hand and say, all right, enough already.
Exactly.
Quite literally, virtually, you can do that.
Exactly. So they don't feel like they need to take their Tonka trucks and go home. So there are ways to manage it. And because of the way they're set up, they're really nice in the fact, like I said, it also tracks your time.
Okay.
So if you've got a team and you're trying, say you've got a team and you're trying to figure out how the online work is going to work for you, even as just a single entrepreneur, you can track time. There's time tracking in there. You can say, oh, I'm going to start the clock at this time, and then they work, and I'm in the clock at this time, and it actually adds the time to that task.
So that's
and it also on the paid versions, it allows you to bill. So your doctors and your lawyers and your therapists that are actually charging by the hour, you can go ahead and record the time. You can type in who the client was, what it was, and then you can actually send an invoice out on the paid version. So it is something that can grow with you as you continue to move in your business.
And on the free versions, you can still track the time. It just doesn't allow you to invoice. But Teamwork and Asana are both really inexpensive. If you decide that you pick one and you really like it, they're really inexpensive to do the paid versions. I use Asana on a daily basis for a client, and I love it. You can set your reminders, or if you set up a new task and you assign it, they immediately get an email that says, you were assigned this task, this is what needs to be done with this task, and this is the date that I expected to see done. So there's not even a need for you to pick up a phone or an email and say, I sent this to you. They automatically get a notification from the project manager itself.
So it's something that I don't use. Isn't that interesting? Because I have a virtual assistant. And so you're calling me out in public on Zoom because we meet, virtually on a Monday, and we kind of just talk about what is going to get done. And, who is often the bottleneck is moi.
So I hate to say it, but that does happen a lot.
And if she was on this, she would agree with you. So I think I like this because, obviously I get, stuck, or something happens, like you're trying to find the Zoom link and she's normally available. She's off today, those types of things. And then I'm like, oh, okay, what do I do next, kind of thing. But I think I like this element that, okay, if you got this sequence, and she's very methodical, that is not my superpower. I am not microscopic. I am big picture. She makes me look really, really good. So I think a tool like this would probably help us more to kind of know where we're at with projects. And I'm going to assume, not knowing the tool, that you can do multiple projects.
You can do multiple projects. And the really nice thing is if you have projects that you guys do on a regular basis, say you do a podcast every week.
Yes.
And there's specific steps that need to be handled in that podcast. You can create a template that's usable.
Oh,
you just
okay.
copy the template and change the dates and change whatever information on the template needs to be. And as they're completed, you can just check them off and you'll get a notification. She'll get a notification.
Right.
This was complete and this is done and this was complete. And then you know where you are on your task. So you can run, I think Emma and I at the moment run 30 different projects through her Asana on any given week. So
wow, that's amazing.
And the templates are nice because, should your VA be out, you could go into the project manager and everything is already there.
And
so
see where she's
anybody, so anybody would be able to, should somebody be sick or should a manager have to go off or a travel or something like that, at least somebody else can go into the backside and see, okay, this is where we are right at the moment, and then pick up from the project.
And it allows you to put contacts on each of the tasks or comments and updates on each of the tasks. So if you finish something, but she's waiting on a link for you, she can say, I've done all of this, but this is what I'm still waiting on. And again, the project manager itself sends you an email. You don't have to take the time to write that email yourself unless you just really want to. Everybody gets an email that's assigned to the project and assigned to that task that says this was done, but we're waiting on this.
So I do something
really nice
and it sends off the emails to everybody. I think my VA is going to like both of them.
Yeah. And it's really nice. It saves a lot of headache. It saves a lot of heartache. It saves a lot of time and projects falling through or pieces not getting finished. So it's if you're coming from brick and mortar, it's something to think about when you're trying to figure out how you're going to make everything online work and nothing become broken or lost.
Okay, so let's talk about other things. If you're going from brick and mortar, and I know that's your superhero things that you do at your business. What are some other things that people that are going from bricks and mortar, they're home now, they've probably been keeping it up a little bit, maybe not, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. What are other things people should be thinking about systems-wise to implement? Obviously Zoom, which I'd like to chit-chat a little bit with you about, or there's maybe other things, other interfaces that you would suggest.
There is a great program. It's called Loom, Loom. Okay. Right now, they're actually doing a special for COVID. They dropped their prices half off so people can use it. I believe it's $10 a month, but they also have a free version. I use the free version right now. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to do share screening and record it. And then you can pass the link over to somebody, which is wonderful when you're trying to explain something to somebody. So if you know how it works and it's a program, you can literally record the screen and show somebody how to do it and then just send them the link. So somebody like you who has a VA and you know what needs to be done, you could go in. So if you're tearing up a sales page, for example, you can just show them on there. You can circle it and tell them, this is what I'm looking for, or this isn't right, instead of trying to write the email to explain it. So they have a visual reference to what's wrong or to how to do something. And it makes a great way to make a virtual SOP or standard operating procedure for people. And if you do have a trainee that's coming on for the very first time, instead of having to retrain over and over and over again, you would have these links. And if you do have a project manager, like we were saying earlier, you could actually make a section in there of training videos, and you'd have all the links in there and the documents so that a new person could go immediately right there and get whatever they need. And it's easy. Then nobody has to train.
There's another program out there that's called Lucid Charts.
Lucid Charts.
If you are a visual person and you need to see everything mapped out, or if you're going to create a funnel and now you're doing this virtual and you need to tell your team how this is going to flow, you can actually create a whole chart and then share it with them. That says, I want this step, I want that step, I want this step, I want that step. And then they can see what you are. Val and I always call them brain dumps.
Brain dumps.
Take it and do a brain dump.
Yeah. They're the old Visios. In the old days, Microsoft had Visio, which did flowcharts. This is the same type of program, but it allows you to share it with other people to collaborate as well.
Nice. So really, you're making me think. about how many things you can actually put in place at let's say, if you're doing touch point meetings throughout the week or beginning of the week, end of the week, that you can actually create these things ahead of time and really kind of set up an agenda item like you do run meetings, and then say, oh, I've been thinking about, let's say we're going to hire a new social media person, and you've been doing this or you've been doing that, so she could use the reference you're talking about to train them.
Mhm.
And, those types of things. And I can kind of talk about what I do, maybe part of the process, and then we could collate it together. And then you say, then develop an SOP and say, okay, well, now this is what we know we need. Go out and source it.
Yep.
Sure.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you can think of that would be some good basic things, or even some,
I mean, Johnna knows, Diane, for social media, everybody is, of course, new. They're used to doing posting for their own personal stuff, but when you're posting for business, it's an entirely different thing. And of course, you can get swamped into social media, world and not even realize the time. So, Johnna, why don't you share some of the ones that we use that are free, that are great out there for people that are easy to use?
Okay. I know a lot of you guys, you see the real great graphics and they have the great quote on it, or they have the sale, whatever that is. There's the best program to use for that, the most inexpensive and the most user-friendly, is Canva. It's canva.com. The free version is great. You can do everything you want. They've already got the social media postings. If you click on it, they've got, if you do the Facebook, it's already sized perfectly for Facebook, Twitter. They think about everything. The only things you really gain if you use Canva paid, and I think it's $10 a month as well, is you're able to do a little more branding, and you can bring in your own font. So if you have a branded font for your company, but for the general person starting out, it is a perfect program to be able to learn how to create your own graphics to accompany your social media post.
Okay.
Now, now that you're ready to start posting for your business or your company, you might want to look into either Buffer or Hootsuite. They are both free for, I believe it's 3 accounts. Buffer has an added bonus in the fact that you can post to your Instagram from your desktop. You do not have to pull out your mobile phone to post to your Instagram account. So that makes Buffer a little bit of a bonus in that fact, but they're both really inexpensive for the paid versions as well. And they allow you to pick dates and times to schedule your post. They allow you to post to multiple channels, and you can post them at intermittent times. So there are kind of some things to think about, rather than having to go, oh, wait, I need to stop everything I'm doing right now because I've got to do a post at 5 o'clock for the business. It just allows one less thing to be off your plate. If you're some of those that don't like to see the posted by option when you use a scheduler, a lot of your social media channels, I know for sure Facebook, and I do it a lot in Facebook, will allow you to go ahead and schedule your post ahead of time. You could do a month's worth of post ahead of time. So it's just some things to think about.
Okay. So what other things might people want to think about going from bricks and mortar to virtual? What are some of the other primary things they should be thinking about?
Storage and file sharing. There is Google Drive. A lot of people know Google Drive. That is one option. It can be expensive if you're going to larger datas. But you want to keep everything as much as possible into one place. So whichever one you're going to commit to, that's the one you want to commit to. You want to make sure that your personal data is not with your client data. So any of those files that you're going to be sharing back and forth, it should be in a different section. For ourselves, for our internal stuff, we use, we have a Google Drive account that's unlimited. So we have that account, which keeps all of our personal files in there, keeps our computers backed up on a regular basis. That allows us to store our computer data. And then our file data and stuff where we're going to share out to other clients, we have that in a Dropbox account. And Dropbox is $99 a year. It allows you to do very quick sharing very easily. It's actually integrated into the Teamwork and Asana, so you can actually integrate and talk to it. So if that's where your file storage is, that helps. And then, of course, the other thing that you want to keep track of is how are you going to back up your data? Now your computer is not just for gaming or for you to write your emails. It's now becoming a storage data center of personal information as well as business information. So that needs to be backed up and secured. And there's lots of them out there that you can use. Google Drive has their backup and sync. There's also other ones. Yeah.
There's
We use Blaze Backup for our stuff that does the backups. That will run continuously all day while even as you're making new files, it immediately sees that you're making a change to a file and immediately backs it up. So those are all very good. And Blaze is cheap. It's $50 a year. So it's
and spell that as BLAIS?
BLAZE.
Blaze. Okay.
Blazebackup.com.
And it's unlimited.
Okay.
And I've had to use the restore option once before on it. And the restore option is seamlessly easy to work with if you have to do the restore option.
Right.
The other thing that you might want to think about is if you are working virtually with a team and you have passwords that they need to have, but you don't want them to actually see the passwords, you just want them to be able to log in to that account. A password saving system. Val and I use LastPass ourselves because I can share you the login for the software or system or website without you actually getting to see the password.
Okay.
So you want
on the paid version, you can actually load it on everything. So you can load it on your cell phone. You can load it on your you can load it onto any app, if your laptop, your desktop. So, and that transfers over to all the different ones. So if somebody says, oh, I don't remember the password to this, and they contact you, you can still go onto your mobile phone and go, okay, I've got the password here. I can share it right now.
So
you
physically, so physically they don't have to be at a desktop if they're not able to do that. They could just still,
exactly.
You can still, have it in the password sent to you, but it's encoded and they don't need to see it.
They don't need to see it. And
Exactly.
that just saves you, especially if you're going to use a one-off person. So like you're just going to have a contractor who's going to create a page for you, or you're just going to have one that's going to do some website edits. You don't want to have to go through and make changes to your passwords every time you need to use somebody to make something, or every time a team member leaves or a new team member comes on. This just is a way for you not to have to change your passwords all the time.
So let's talk a little bit about Zoom, because I know there's been a lot of things happening with things like Zoom. Do you find Zoom is like a good platform for having meetings? Are there other things that you would suggest? We talked a little bit about what kind of things could people use to connect with their team members and even family, right? We're all kind of, disconnected other than who we're living with now, those types of things with social distancing. What recommendations would you make for connection for teams or even people that want to stay connected to family at this time?
We like Zoom. It allows you to record it, which is nice. You can also use something that's called Tremi, which allows you to transcribe the information. So if it is something that you need to keep for recording basis, you can actually, I think they charge, I think it's less than $1 a minute. I think it's 10 cents a minute or a penny a minute to transcribe. So you can have the notes, you can take the recording after it's done and completed, you can put it over to tremi.com and they transcribe it in less than 20 minutes. So you have an actual copy of it that you can actually look at. And it's not bad. I mean, I would say it's probably got a 90% accuracy. There are some stuff because people have different accents. It is a little bit, it's probably about 80% in the Spanish. I know when I send my Spanish stuff over, it's a little bit less accuracy. But it does work for the purposes of having something written as well. So nobody has to sit down and take notes. Another thing that we personally use also is WhatsApp, which is available on Androids. Almost everybody uses it, which is nice when you have people. In our case, where we're in Mexico, we have clients in Canada, we have clients in the UK, we have clients that are in the US, and it allows them to still be able to not only chat with us, but also it has video function in there and it has voice function in there. So that's always nice. The Apple Facebook one is FaceTime. So those are always nice because it still allows those connections.
And even Skype is an option because Skype now has a version for business. So you can have multiple people on a conference call. You can video share, you can screen share, and they have a Skype recording option too. So if you had a meeting and say one of your team members couldn't make it or one of them was late, you can always give them access to the recording and then they didn't miss anything on the meeting.
And there's also Slack, which is another one which allows you to do team communication. It is only via written, but it does allow you to chat with other people and talk to other people and comment
share
on
files.
stuff. Yeah, you can share files.
And you get real-time notifications on Slack. So if there's a conversation going on about a project or a thing that's coming up, as soon as somebody replies or uploads a file, you immediately get a desktop notification. So you're not sitting around going, well, wow, I wonder what's taking them so long to get back to me on this.
And we actually use Slack, my assistant and I, and you know, when she's run out of all options, she'll text me that, you know, and then the final is I've got to pick up the phone. I've got to pick up the phone. So again, when you know, these are all really, really good tools because again, it creates connection. Now, tell us a little bit more about when is it that people should start to think about hiring a freelancer? Obviously, you freelance. And, you know, people may be needing it now and just kind of trying to muddle in the dark and putting all these pieces together and, you know, probably not sleeping at night, some of them, just because they're worried about, you know, all the things that, how they're getting things out to their customers. So, and also tell me maybe some tips of how you might decide, you know, what's the best way to kind of, you know, source the right help that you're needing based on where you're at if you're just shifting over?
Great question. Most people turn around and they, especially if you're struggling to learn a new program or struggling to get something done, then chances are it's probably cheaper for you to freelance it. Let's say, you know, if you're a doctor and you're charging $100, $200, $300 an hour to do clients, and you're spending that 2 or 3 hours at your desk struggling or fighting over something, you're losing money. Mm-hmm. You can hire somebody as cheap as the Philippines for $2 an hour, all the way to the US Canadian prices of $15 to $100 an hour, depending upon how technical you need. So it makes more common sense at that point in time. Put your pride aside. Stop saying, I'm going to go learn it, and send it out and let it go. Even if you were to hire somebody for just the 1 hour or just for the one project, that's perfectly okay. You can do that. If you are good and you are tech savvy and you really want to learn it because you really want to learn it, that's something different. There's plenty of training on YouTube that you can go through and learn how to do it if you've got that type of tech savvy stuff to it. But the fact of the matter is, somewhere in your business, you're not going to be good at something. Mm-hmm. And it takes a good manager and a good owner to say, this is not my forte. This is what I need to delegate out. This is what I need to have sent to somebody because it makes more sense to do it. And that, I say, that's where it is you really need to stop to think about, is it costing you more money trying to do it yourself than it is to send it out as a project? Or do I need to have somebody do this on a regular basis because I'm never going to learn how to do it? I mean, when you get into Infusionsoft or get into Entreport or get onto the bigger programs, it's a lot of time and effort for somebody who doesn't know computers or virtual world. It's just easier to pay somebody on a monthly basis and let them worry about it and let them manage it and let them run it. But it's also important to realize, don't hire somebody and say, go set it up for me, go do this for me, and go do all that for me without you having control of the item. Mm-hmm. And we hear this a lot of times. Oh, well, I never set the item up, so I don't know the username. I don't know the password. Yeah. I just know I get billed on my credit card. Mm-hmm. And as far as the companies are concerned, because I had like one client who literally lost everything they had done for 30 years because all the person did when they VA got fired is went in and changed the password. Oh. And because their name was on the account instead of the owner's name on the account, in that case, it was Amazon file sharing. They said, we can't help you. That's the owner. It doesn't matter who's paying for the bill. So it's very important. Take the time to you set it up. You make the username. You make the password. Pay for the additional user, whatever it is. Most companies will give you at least one user, and then give them that password. Never give them your password, your logins, so that you are always in control of your account.
Good tip. I've heard of people struggling with, they've contracted things out and they don't know the username and password. And then, they've had maybe, some kind of maybe not perfect ending or whatever, and they're struggling to get their IP information back because the person is, not getting along with them or holding it,
hostage.
Yeah.
Really, that's what we call it. We call it holding clients hostage. And it's very important. I know a lot of people are confused. They don't know how to do it. If you go into Entreport and you don't know how to set up an account on Entreport, pick up the phone and call them. Say, look, I don't know how to do this. Here's my credit card. They'll do it for you, but at least it's in your name. Most places have online chat or a telephone number that you can call. Just pick up the phone and say, I don't know how to do it. I've got to hire the work out, but I want it in my name.
So tell the listeners how you work with companies now that come to you, because I think that's important. We've talked about the entire, how do you move over from, bricks and mortar to virtual? So tell them what what you do with companies and what services you offer, because I think probably a lot of people are needing the services, but people don't know where to go, right? If they've not,
Our website is theobgs.com or theonlinebusinessgurus.com, either one. If you are Latin speaking or Spanish speaking, the Spanish speaking list is there. It'll change it over to the Spanish side for you. So we offer services in both languages. We offer everything from strategy to planning services all the way to high-end done-for-you services. We do done-with-you services. So if somebody wants to actually learn it and do it themselves, we actually can do one-on-one training with you via Zoom or via another matter. Usually we do it through Zoom and actually walk the person through step-by-step how to do something so that they're aware how to do it. So we offer those trainings and they get the recordings so they'd be able to have it for life. But we understand that people get lost and they just don't know. So we're those people, if you don't know where to start or where to go to, we will at least if we can't do it, we'll get you to the right person or place to get it done.
And I think to your point, right? Like someone like me, when I was transitioning over, at first you're thinking, I don't have the extra income. But then, you get to the point where you think, I'm going to lose my mind here if I try to figure out one more of these things. That's literally what was, and then with all the pressure and the time that people are going and they're having to do this now, there's no choice. I did it 5 years ago when I started my own business and still I was like, oh, I can figure this out. Oh my God, I can't figure this out. And then and then you realize how much time you had lost till I got to the point where I had my virtual assistant and I thought, and I always say thank you that I did that, because what it afforded me to do, which is to get out there, to speak more, to train more, to consult more, to just pick up the phone, do my videos, all those things that only I can do. And like you said, when you look at your hourly rate based on, what I'm making compared to what I had to put out, it was completely worth the investment, because then I could continue to scale up the business versus me, trying to say, well, I'm not sure I can afford it now. It was kind of recognizing that investment, whatever that $10, $15 was, what was the return on that?
Right. And that's the attitude. The attitude you have to have is it's a VA or a freelancer is not an expense. It's an investment.
Right. Absolutely.
You have to look at it that way, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to get you those extra hands, because you just cannot do it yourself. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your business. You just can't do it yourself. And you're going to have to ask for help if you're going to want to succeed. And if you don't, you're going to fail. Right.
And you're going to get mentally tired. And I could tell you when I was starting mine, I got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm tired. So what I was supposed to be doing, I didn't have time to, because all this other stuff, that is not my gift. My gift is not the microscopic. And if I had to watch one more YouTube, video, I was going to pitch my computer. I got to that point where I realized, okay, I have to save my energy to be able to do what my gift is, which was not the microscopic, and then finding someone, and that fit is important. Would you agree?
Most definitely.
Right. So so do you suggest people
we actually are offering you, your audience, a free checklist that goes through basically what interview questions are vital for you to ask. when you're going to hire a freelancer.
Okay.
And then we
Great.
also have in there on that as the bonus, we're giving you where to find your first VAs, your first freelancers, so that
Great.
there's links in every place and resources for them to go to.
Awesome.
You'll have the link. So that helps them through. But the key is you never want your VA or whoever you're going to use to hold you hostage. You never want to pay 100% up front.
Right.
Do not always think that because you can communicate on a Zoom call for the first call and everything is wonderful and great, and you think this is heaven and slice and everything else, that you're free not to check the references. Mm-hmm. Check the references. And ask people. I mean, there are plenty of Facebook groups that you're in, and it doesn't hurt to find out or ask people, has anybody ever heard of so-and-so and so-and-so, and what are your experiences? So that you're aware of it, because it is an investment. And there's nothing worse than paying somebody to do something, and you're 6 hours into paying somebody to find out that they're inept or incapable of doing it, even though they assured you, oh, sure, I can do it. And there are plenty of people out there, oh, yeah, I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Oh, yeah, I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Or they have a team that's got 50 people and they can't manage their team. So they have no idea where this project is, and it's in somebody's hands. So if they were out sick today, so now you're going to have to hold. So it's important to understand, first of all, who are you hiring? Why are you hiring them? And ask them point blank, what is your forte? And only hire them for that one forte. You may have to hire 6 or 7 people, and that's okay, because they're all good at what they're doing, which is going to cost you a lot less than if you hire one person and get them out of their forte where they're wasting hours and hours of your time and your money trying to get something done because they're on YouTube videos trying to learn how to do it.
Right.
The other thing I would add to that too is not everybody is going to be a good fit for you. And it's just how it is. We have clients that will not work with me. They only want to work with Valerie. Then we have clients that only work with me. They don't want to work with her. So make sure that when you finally decide on that person, that you have that good repertoire. You have already a good basis of communication. You feel comfortable working with that person and they feel comfortable working with you. There's nothing worse than trying to force a working relationship because you want their expertise and you end up hating them and hating everything about the working relationship. So take a few extra minutes and get to know that person. We always say 2 calls. Your first call to talk to them about what they can do, what they know. And the second call is a follow-up call to say, okay, these are great, but tell me this and tell me that. You want to make sure that whoever you're working with, you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I guess
the other thing is ask if they've got trial times. A lot of people like ourselves will, if it's a small, cheap project that takes us an hour or something like that, a lot of times we'll do it for free. Depending on what the expertise of the item is. Or we'll do it, we do a money back guarantee. So if we can't get the item done or if it's not to your satisfaction, we don't charge you. There are a lot of people out there that do trial periods. So they'll do, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours as a trial at a discounted rate and see if you like the work. So don't be afraid to ask. If you're not 100% sure, it's your first time, maybe you've checked out the references, but there's half and half, and you're really just testing the waters. Don't be afraid to negotiate.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes if you're beginning and you're trying to find someone, if you're trying to find somebody to say, do a Facebook ad and you have no clue that you have no clue and you don't know, how much to pay per hour and all that stuff. These are all things that I went through and I went, I don't know, and then you just kind of fumble around in the dark. And what I would do initially before I got my VAs, I would do one project at a time. And then if I was, okay with that person, then I would use them again. And if I didn't, I would just kind of move on. And I would say, does anybody know anybody that is good at doing intros and outros for podcasts, right? So I've been there. So I get what you're saying. And some of them have done horrible jobs. And other ones I think, I can't lose your contact information because I need you. And now my VA, she sources out things because I trust her judgment. And she'll find 3 or 4 people and she'll say, okay, I'm going to send it to them. And, they're going to send you back. You just tell me what you who's in the final, and then I say to her, you make the decision, because I know that people have capacity. So I think all these things that you're giving are really, really good tips. So I know we could probably talk about a lot of other things, and I thank you for your time. I'm sure you've been super busy and your business is growing based on our time. So again, any last words before I let you go? We're going to, obviously you're going to provide me with the links to some of the things we've discussed. We'll make sure your website is available, those types of things. Any last things you want to share, Valerie and Johnna, before I let you go?
Going from brick and mortar to online is not as scary as you think.
Okay.
Right.
I know it feels scary right now, but once you get some things in place and you've done it for a few days, it's not as scary as you think it will be.
And it's going to take patience.
Yes.
You're not going to succeed overday. You are going to have failures. Things are not going to work. Softwares are going to fail. There's going to be spelling mistakes. There's going to be grammar mistakes. It's going to go out on the wrong time. Those things are happens. It's just part of it. You're not the only one. So take a deep breath and fix whatever is wrong and move forward. Don't let it stop you.
Well, thank you. Those are some great words. I should have met you a couple of years ago. So again, what am I taking away? I think, we have a lot going on, and a lot of people, we're coping with a lot of uncertainty. So, not taking out an extra thing that's going to deplete that capacity for you to stay present in your business. Just reach out, have a conversation with them, or they're going to give us that checklist about how you could look at the qualities. Make sure and interview a couple people, and go with, like Johnna said, do 2 interviews, not just one, and of course references. And then try it. Some people, like she said, has try it for at first, or a money back. Look for those as you're getting your feet wet. As you get a little bit better, you get a little bit more confident, and then you can go from there. So enjoy your weather in Mexico.
Thank you.
And if I ever come down, I'm going to come and visit you too. And stay safe, and thanks for all the things that you shared. I'm sure a lot of people are going to take a lot of things out, and we'll have all the links available. So again, it's Roxanne Derhodge. If you're needing anything around the element of wellness related to mental well-being, you can go to my website. It's roxannederhodge.com. Thanks a lot, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannederhodge.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.